what it really means is doing something that's unorthodox, right? Something that's out of the normal. Typically, you have either set career paths, you have certain things that people do in their lives as a journey. And Maverick is someone, I wouldn't say I am, but people who do take risks, do things out of the ordinary, give something a punt and sees where it goes. But I think a common trait that you'll find is deep passion and love to constantly learn and expose themselves to new things. And I think to me, that's what a maverick really constitutes.
Welcome to the Maverick Indian podcast. Thanks for joining me today. I formally welcome you.
Awesome. Firstly, thanks for having me. I know that this was a long time in the works, so glad to see this finally come alive. Hey, folks, for those of you who don't know me and are tuning in to listen to this, firstly, thank you for your time. I'm Abhinay. I've actually been a lover of consumer insights and a student of economics in the field of advertising, actually. And that's how I pretty much started my career. I used to be a media planner at an agency called Kiara, which is part of the Dentsu network right now. So I used to spearhead implementation planning, media strategy for some of its large brands that I also was a part of the pitching process and won for. I think very early on in my career, I co-founded one of the first data sciences teams in the industry. It was very new into what we were doing, but one of the ambitions that we had was to create product in India and then export that in terms of intelligence to other countries of the world. And for about 2 years or so, I've been a part of a startup called ProfitWheel in its founding team. I look after product marketing, but I've also been a part of its strategic accounts and to try to create visibility for a consumer intelligence platform in an ever-changing digital marketing ecosystem.
Right, great, Abhinay. I definitely know that you're one of the leading voices in the Martech space, right? But I would love to hear your thoughts around how do you think about Maverick and mindset, and give me some sort of and our viewers some sort of an understanding of what does being a Maverick means to you.
Awesome. I think it's a very lofty title, actually, if you ask me about a maverick, right? But to me, what it really means is doing something that's unorthodox, right? Something that's out of the normal. Typically, you have either set career paths, you have certain things that people do in their lives as a journey. A maverick is someone, I wouldn't say I am, but people who do take risks, do things out of the ordinary, gives something a punt and sees where it goes. But I think a common trait that you'll find is deep passion and love to constantly learn and expose themselves to new things. And I think to me, that's what a maverick really constitutes. You muted yourself a bit for me.
Yeah. Why don't you share any particular Maverick thing that you've done in the media science space that you recall, and something that was unorthodox?
I think great question. Firstly, I have a lot of my teams to be thankful for, the people who I've worked with. But I think one of the things that we started off doing is actually co-founding the data sciences unit, right? I mean, product was actually built in the West and then sort of imported as technology to India. Often you'll have Google, you'll have Facebook roll out new features first in, let's say, the Americas or the UK or Singapore or some other country, and then it would come back to India. I think we sort of took a unique advantage to actually build product first in India and send that to about 32 countries. And actually became one of the first agency groups. I remember when we were in Dentsu to get an ad tech badge from Facebook as well for some of what we did. So I think that was pretty much unorthodox, creating a data sciences team in a large services industry that focused on building product was actually, I think, unorthodox, but a bet that paid off.
Okay. Do you do any unorthodox things in your personal setup as well, besides in your workplace that you just shared with me?
I think very interesting and maybe goes to quality also that I was talking about. But it's very hard to blur the lines between personal and professional when you chase after products or projects that are actually close to your heart. Like the reason why I took advertising as an industry is because I was just worried about or constantly thinking about the problem of choice. Why do you choose a particular product? Why do we choose a particular brand or service? And I think that's something that sort of gave me this Maverick thought that I wanted to actually build up a product company with my team.
Right.
Coming back to my personal life, like I mentioned, I think the idea of even picking economics as a subject. My parents were both science students, and I said that one day I wanted to study commerce and I wanted to get deeper into economics. And I thought that again, not much that we knew as a family also about the topic, but I was very inspired by Hal Varian, who was actually the chief economist of Google, and he built up a lot of the algorithms that got it to be this revenue generating powerhouse it is, but fundamentally helping Google better understand which audience is more suited to an ad. And that's why I picked economics as well, coming from a completely a family backed by science.
Interesting, interesting. Particularly advertising has been a very unorthodox subject field for me as well. I would love to understand your view on any particular Maverick figure or voices that have influenced your thinking and approach. One that you just mentioned. Any other voice or a person that you can think of, and why would that be?
Right. I think that's a great question again, because I think inspiration is all around us, and different people inspire us to do very different things. One is an ideal of mine is actually out here is a fictional character, Iron Man. But just the fact of Tony Stark saying that I can build stuff, I'm actually an inventor, and then building products very early on of human AI collaboration, right? I think one is I'm a huge superhero fan, so that's been a great influence in that sense. I mentioned Hal Varian, of course, earlier on. So I think that those have been key things that or key people or themes in life that I've actually adapted to learning towards. But of course, when you look at guys like Steve Jobs, I think his Stanford commencement address is something that I tend to listen to at least once a month, where he talks about the dots connecting backwards. When you actually look back into some of the decisions that you make, you feel that you've landed where you are because a consequence of those decisions. And when you're actually doing them, you don't know where they're going to add up to, right? So I think he's been a great influence in terms of some of the decisions that I've tried to make myself as well.
Right, Abhinay. Abhinay, how do you think Maverick and being a Maverick and carrying that mindset when you deal with setbacks, essentially, and there are many letdowns that life has to offer us, right?
Right.
Um, how do you personally deal, and what is the message that you would want to give out when somebody is dealing with setbacks?
I think I'd like to articulate that again from a quote from a movie that I liked, Rocky Balboa, and he actually talks to his son when he's talking about setbacks, and his son is constantly saying that, I've had like a looming personality of you. Its life has been unfair, and what he actually tells him is very powerful. In that, life isn't about how hard you get hit, but it's about how you can take those hits and keep moving forward, right? And I think that's all about how you should actually even deal with setback. I mean, no one's journey is perfect, no one is perfect, but it's about how you learn from an experience and then recover from that to take those learnings and actually move forward, is actually how you get to your next step of growth.
I mean, I know we've spoken about. I mean, this podcast and this talk is not about giving philosophical or motivational gyan to the
Right.
viewers. I
Right.
think it is about bringing some of the unique voices from India for India, and
Right.
that's the goal and motto of starting this project up.
Right.
I would also now coming into the industry that we are in and you are in. I know we've spoken a bit about AI and something that you are passionate about, the use case of AI in marketing. So, Abhinay, we were talking about AI, right? And what's your opinion about AI? And as a Maverick organization, professional, and as an individual, what role do you think AI is going to play in our lives, professionally and personally, given that there is a hell lot of hoopla that is going on at the moment? Why don't you share your perspective with our viewers?
Awesome. Firstly, thanks for the question. And I think I love the idea of this podcast to actually take complicated subjects and actually break it down to real world applications. And I think that was the idea behind what you're trying to do. I think it's a very interesting question because if you look at the industry in which we're in, we're constantly looking at or inundated with releases that say so many layoffs has happened because of efficiency and automation and so on and so forth. And what that has actually created is this constant tussle between versus machine intelligence, and they're sort of at loggerheads. But the way I actually see it is that it's actually meant to work cohesively together. So when I look at the applications of AI, it's more, I mean, of course, in the marketing use cases, you're seeing data driven creative, you're seeing audience insights, audience intelligence completely automated by the way ad servers actually show you ads, or generative AI that's now sort of come into the forefront of creation of content or creative or videos and so on and so forth, right? So there's a lot of buzz, especially in our industry, but think of its applications in your day-to-day life, and I think that's where it's had the most use in terms of driving personal productivity as well, right? So just think of you as again Tony Stark, and AI is nothing but the Iron Man suit meant to augment your effort. So how do you use this smartest powerhouse of research intelligence available at your fingertips to actually do a lot more? So some of the uses that I've actually done is brainstormed with it, coming up with new solutions, new products, could even be blog post ideas. So I think that there's a lot that you can do once you converse with it, feed it the right content and context, and actually get a lot more out from it.
And do you think it is going to outpace us as professional selves in terms of people who are entering into the job market? Should they be threatened by AI as a tech?
I think what we're seeing is prompt engineering being the fastest growing skill set, if you actually ask me about it. And it's the skill set of not just disrupting the way you currently do your job, but being comfortable with conversing and working with technology. And I think it's going to just add that skill set to anyone entering the job market today. So don't look at it as a traditional job function. The industry itself has changed from when you and I got into it, right? So think of this as new skill sets being added because you're entering into the future of how the industry is actually operating.
Right. And from Profit Wheels standpoint, what are the cool things that we can expect you guys to bring in 2024?
Awesome. With things that we're actually working on, and in fact, we just had a strategic kickoff that we're looking at going into the next year. And I think one of the things that we're really excited about is bringing this conversational intelligence into the way you actually get more information about. So, how can I have a chat with a chatbot or an interface that actually does a lot of heavy lifting of understanding audiences from how they behave or the content that they on Google, on Facebook, on different other platforms, and then have a conversation with me as, let's say, a researcher or marketer, some this piece of technology to tell me more about myself and give me a direction in which I should go into.
Right. I'm going to go on to another now and ask you about some of the societal or industry norms that you believe needs to be changed, challenged, or redefined.
I think what things like GDPR, CCPA actually started off more in terms of data protection and privacy safeguarding, but definitely data governance is something that should come into the forefront. So I think looking at how data is collected, how data is used, processed, and even the output of algorithms so that they're not too biased is something that is going to be essential if you're talking about an ecosystem that's going to be driven by algorithmic intelligence.
Right. Any message that you would love to share with our viewers and people who are watching this podcast? Somebody who's been there in the media industry and started his career, right, and grown to be heading the product at one of the leading marketing technology company. What message would you want to give to new talent pool getting in, wanting to get into media tech space, or somebody who is already there in the industry and want to really understand what are the changes and dynamics that this industry is going through right now? What message would you give?
Awesome. So, firstly, I look at product marketing, not product. There's an entire team that sort of looks after building the product per se. But I think, in terms of skill sets, right, is that, well, we know that change is the only constant, but keep abreast to adapting to new technology, right? Like the entire skill set of working in conjunction with technology, I think, or prompt engineering is completely new skill sets that are emerging. So, always be ready to learn, pick up new things, pick up short courses, self learn a lot of new concepts in the industry, because that's constantly fast moving, and then keep adapting to the changes in the environment.
And from a personal standpoint, what are some of the maverick things that you are currently on to, and you possibly are looking at doing things unorthodox this year?
So again, like I said, like looking at new skill sets of being better at prompt engineering, picking up constantly new algorithms that are actually entering into the industry, and perhaps what are some of the pros and cons of that. I think it's going to be a learning curve for all of us. The environment is completely changed. Digital marketing itself is not what it used to be even 2 3 years ago. So being abreast to these changes in the environment is something that I'm looking forward to enhancing myself with.
Perfect. Any closing thoughts, Abhinay, that you have before we close on to this very first podcast of 2024
Uh,
for for our viewers, please?
Firstly, thank you everyone who tuned in, who stayed this long and actually listened to the entire session. I think it was very fun, engaging, and I hope you guys picked up something from it. If I had to leave with one parting message, it would be, like I said, to be a lifelong learner, to not be too daunted by new changes, but to actually embrace them and move forward. And yeah, feel free to always reach out to a mentor, to anyone, in case you're stuck in something.
Perfect. It was lovely to have you on our podcast, Abhinay, and wish you all the best for 2024. And again, you are one of those maverick voices that I personally know, and it was always, like always, a pleasure to have an interaction with you and a candid conversation with you.
Awesome. Thanks. That sentiment is completely reciprocated. So yeah, looking forward. Thanks.
Perfect, Abhinay. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Maverick Indian podcast. Hope you found our discussion enlightening and entertaining. I would like to thank our partners, India Digital Gaming Society. If you have any thoughts, questions, or topic suggestions for future episodes, we would love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to us on social media. Remember, the conversation doesn't have to end here. Stay connected and keep the dialogue going. And as we wrap up, we want to express our gratitude to our partners, listeners. Your support fuels our passion for creating meaningful content and engaging conversations. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep exploring the fascinating Maverick world around you.